Welcome to the Bloggerian Deep Dive. Today, we're striping bare Canada's Phoenix pay disaster and how federal retirees lost millions due to government policy failures. For Canadians still caught up in compensation claims, further on, we'll talk and walk you through some helpful, effective, and proven claim methods. I'm Michelle Nevitt, and my co-host today is David Banks.
Phoenix pay disaster wasn't merely a failed government IT project, it became an administrative black hole that basically swallowed billions of dollars and, more importantly, derailed the financial stability of hundreds of thousands of Canadians.
It's really the definitive modern case study in public policy, gone horribly wrong.
Phoenix was designed to save the government $70 million a year by consolidating payroll.
But instead of saving $70 million a year, the Phoenix system has now cost Canadian taxpayers over $5.1 billion as of June 2025. The Phoenix disaster has been linked to bankruptcies and attempted suicides. It's a catastrophe for many ordinary Canadians, including retirees.
Most commentators on Phoenix have focused on the root causes and government policies. On the contrary, our focus today is on the human cost, and to present data-backed support Canadians valued most to help those whose lives have been blighted by Phoenix.
Thousands of federal employees were underpaid, overpaid, or not paid at all. But what mattered most was how people found help. Without further ado, we're going to laser focus on remedies for ordinary Canadians. Anything that can quickly stabilize cash flow, protect credit, and repair tax and benefit knock-on effects.
The human fallout of Phoenix was devastating. It was a financial crisis for real people. And the remedies that Canadians valued most were the ones that directly stabilized their finances.
Let's break that down. If I'm a federal worker suddenly missing half my paycheck, what's the first line of support?
The most immediate relief is emergency salary advances. These are quick cash payments to cover rent, groceries, or mortgage bills while the system errors are being fixed. Most Canadians valued this because it stopped the financial bleeding right away.
So speed mattered more than promises of long-term fixes?
Exactly. In a crisis, predictability and cash flow are king. Another critical remedy is priority pay processing for hardship cases. If you're facing eviction or couldn't afford medication, you must immediately escalate your case to the front of the line.
What about the hidden costs, like late fees or damaged credit scores?
That's where direct cost recovery comes in. Affected Canadians can claim reimbursement for bank fees, interest charges, and penalties. And potentially, lost investment income, even provable emotional and mental stress.
I've heard tax season is a nightmare for Phoenix victims. How should that be handled?
You're right. Pay errors often landed in the wrong tax year, distorting T4 slips and reducing benefits like the Canada Child Benefit. Now, looking back at what's worked so far, the Canadian government offered tax adjustments and even reimbursed the cost of hiring accountants to untangle the mess. That was hugely valued because it gave people professional help to fix CRA complications.
As of 2025, there were still over 370,000 outstanding pay cases, a number that has remained high for several years. Many federal workers continue to experience stress, financial hardship, and uncertainty about receiving correct, on-time pay.
The backlog of pay issues remains a major problem, with some cases stretching back more than 5 years. The government has consistently missed targets for eliminating the backlog, and the current intake of new cases often overwhelms the system's processing capacity.
So, going back to the plight of ordinary Canadians, is there a good roadmap of actions and activities that have proved effective in the past, and from which you, the listener, can derive the most benefits today?
So if we sum it up, the remedies that worked best AMD mattered most were: number 1, emergency salary advances to keep cash flowing; number 2, priority hardship processing for urgent cases; number 3, reimbursement of direct costs such as bank fees and penalties; number 4, tax support, including adjustments and covered accountant costs.
That's the core, immediate, personal recovery roadmap. Canadians don't just want apologies or system patches. They need concrete, fast financial protection. These remedies were the data-backed lifeline.
Powerful insights. For anyone listening who was affected, the takeaway is clear. Know your rights to advances, reimbursements, and tax support. These are the remedies that made the biggest difference in the lives of other Phoenix disaster victims.
Exactly. Awareness is half the battle. The more employees know what's available, the better they can shield themselves from the fallout of systemic failures.
Don't let pay errors wreck your finances. Know your rights, claim advances, get reimbursed, and demand tax fixes.
Phoenix pay errors hit thousands of Canadians. Missed pay, late fees, tax chaos. But these remedies were the lifeline at the height of the Phoenix disaster, and they're still available. Awareness is protection.
Phoenix Pay Relief, fast, concrete financial help, because you deserve financial and emotional stability.
And here are 2 helpful contact numbers to kick off your financial stability. Number 1, if your paycheck is wrong, call 1-855-686-4729.
And number 2, if you need compensation for damages, call 1-833-670-2715.
Looking at the national fallout, the cost of the Phoenix disaster has been put at $5.1 billion. But that number, it doesn't capture the true cost, does it? The human toll is what makes this so devastating. Who was hit the hardest?
The stress landed hardest on people going through any kind of change. Think about it. An employee getting a promotion, a transfer, someone working overtime, or dealing with complex leave.
So not your standard 9-to-5 straightforward paycheck.
Exactly. New hires, students, people on parental or medical leave, and especially retirees, their lives just ground to a halt.
The stories from retirees are it's a profound betrayal. You serve for decades and then your retirement is put in jeopardy.
It's just profound negligence. Retirees were facing these massive delays, 10 months or more, just waiting for their final pay or for their pension to start. We have documented cases where that wait stretched to nearly 2 full years.
2 years with no income.
Imagine trying to start your retirement like that. The stress would be unbelievable.
And the consequences weren't just stressful, they were life-altering.
They were. There was a former Canada Revenue Agency employee, a 52-year-old woman who kept getting paychecks for $0. Zero! She couldn't pay her mortgage, and she lost her home to foreclosure.
That's not an administrative error anymore. That's personal ruin.
And tragically, it went even further. A coroner explicitly linked the suicide of another middle-aged woman to the pay system, saying the issues led to emotional and financial ruin. This just highlights the point that getting paid correctly isn't just a transaction. It's a critical psychological asset. It's your security.
And this isn't ancient history. The backlog is still enormous, even now in 2025.
That's right. As of January 2025, the backlog stood at 370,000 cases. And within that, the most complex files, the retirement and termination cases, accounted for over 50,000.
And the standard is what, like 25 days to fix an issue?
25 days is the service standard. The median resolution time right now is 182 days, over 6 months. The system is still fundamentally broken.
So let's talk about the most complex part of this mess. The tax trap. It's so counterintuitive. How does getting overpaid lead to financial disaster?
It creates this liability on what's called phantom income. Let's break this down. If Phoenix accidentally overpaid you, it reported that inflated gross income on your T4 tax slip. The Canada Revenue Agency, they don't know you had to pay it back. They just see the T4.
So you're forced to pay income tax on money you never actually kept.
Precisely. You've paid tax on money you don't have. Then when you have to repay the government, it gets even more complicated because they've already sent your income tax, your Canada Pension Plan contributions, and your employment insurance premiums based on that inflated amount.
And this is where people, especially retirees, end up having to pay back more than they ever received in the first place.
Yes, because the employer might not be able to get back those CPP and EI premiums. So the employee, who's already paid tax on the phantom income, then pays back the net amount they received, plus the portion of the deductions the employer can't recover. It's an administrative nightmare where everyone loses.
So given all this damage, the government obviously had to create some kind of compensation system. What did those agreements with the unions actually cover?
Well, between 2019 and 2020, agreements were set up to compensate people for damages they experienced in that first 4-year window. This included general damages for, non-financial harm like stress, anxiety, all the time people spent on the phone trying to fix their pay.
And what was the standard amount for that kind of general claim?
It was up to $1,000, with a portion up to $1,500 in some settlements that could be designated as non-taxable. This was really just an acknowledgement of the widespread frustration. But for the really severe life-altering impacts, there were specific claims categories.
And getting those severe claims approved wasn't easy. You had to hit a certain monetary threshold just to qualify, right?
That's a key detail. For most financial cost claims, there's a $1,500 combined threshold. Your total calculated damages have to be more than that to even qualify for a payout in that category. They wanted to filter out the smaller issues to focus on the most egregious cases.
Can you give us an example of a financial claim that would clear that bar?
Sure. Let's take a hypothetical retiree, Justin. His severance payment is delayed for 10 months. If the lost interest or investment opportunity on that money is calculated to be, say, $1,562.50, that clears the threshold. He's now eligible. It also covers things like having to cash out an RRSP early just to pay your bills.
And what about the non-financial hardships? The job losses, the mental health crises?
Those fall under severe personal hardship claims. This covers things like lost occupational capacity, someone having to leave their job or take medical leave because of Phoenix-related stress. It could also be for losing a security clearance or even bankruptcy.
And the mental anguish claims, the ones that connect back to the tragedies we talked about. How are those defined?
The framework does recognize claims for mental anguish or trauma, but it's important for you to understand the standard to prove it is incredibly high. The claimant has to show that the suffering interfered, and this is the direct quote, to a profound degree with their ability to lead a normal life.
And what does a profound degree mean in practice?
We're talking about things like developing a severe lasting mental illness, like clinical depression requiring hospitalization, being forced into a medical retirement because of the stress, or even a suicide attempt. It required an overwhelming burden of proof to connect the payroll failure to the complete inability to lead a normal life. It's a striking admission of failure written right into the bureaucracy.
So what's the government doing right now just to manage the backlog while they build the new system?
The current strategy is basically stabilization. They're using automation and AI. There's a tool called Eva, an artificial intelligence virtual assistant, to handle the routine stuff. The idea is to free up human compensation advisors to focus on that massive backlog of complex files, the multi-year corrections, severance, and especially those 50,000 retiree and termination files.
So if we look back at the lessons from the Auditor General and the Senate, what are the mandatory governance rules that have to be enforced this time?
There are 3 critical mandates. First, an uncompromising commitment to data remediation. That means 100% accurate reconciliation of historical data has to be a prerequisite to going live, not something they fix later.
Okay, that's the data problem. What about the human knowledge problem? The expertise they lost when they cut all those advisors?
That's the second lesson. They have to institutionalize continuous consultation with union experts. Those are the people who hold the knowledge of the 80,000 pay rules. You can't build a system to handle that complexity without them in the room always.
And finally, executive accountability.
Yes, the failure of Phoenix was rooted in a culture that prioritized the schedule and budget over functionality. There has to be clear, institutionalized accountability to make sure cost savings never, ever override those fundamental requirements again.
So this deep dive has really shown us how a simple efficiency drive ended up eroding public trust, costing billions, and causing immense human suffering.
That's right. The Phoenix case shows that basic administrative processes, like getting paid correctly, are critical financial and psychological assets. This Phoenix crisis is far from over.
Indeed, and it's a wrap.
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, comment, and subscribe. Until the next time.